But you know, it's just one of the things. I ain't going to cry over no spilled milk. It is what it is.
Yeah, at the moment, he's retired and he's not showing any signs of coming back. To be fair to him, I think he will personally, but until he does, it's just
deal with those 2 losses. Do you think that might be part of why he's announced this retirement?
Must have proven would struggle with any loss. The fact that he's lost the same guy twice must be absolutely destroying him. It must be. You know, I can't help but think, you know, he's got a mental health condition. He's bipolar by all accounts, and you know, maybe he's having, you know, a turn where he probably feels like he can't hold on to reality. But
Conor Benn, from rising star to boxing's biggest fall, Conor Benn once stood on the brink of superstardom. He carried the proud Benn family legacy, sold himself as Britain's next big attraction, and promised blockbuster nights against Chris Eubank Jr., but in the cruelest twist of fate, Benn's downfall didn't
fight, right? You know, so I'm sitting there going, well, you got to just, yeah, now thinking about it, you got to take your hat off to me and Chris, man, for being the way we are, being the fighters we are, you know, against all odds, against all odds of achieving anything.
It didn't come from a crushing knockout. It came from outside the ropes. Failed drug tests, police involvement, and now whispers of retirement have turned what was once a golden career into a cautionary tale. Instead of stepping up and facing accountability, Benn has shocked fans by suggesting he might walk away. To many, it feels less like a proud champion's farewell and more like a desperate...
Yeah, I mean, it's a hard one to swallow, man. Yeah. It's a hard one to swallow. I mean, obviously, I didn't come into the fight thinking...
retreat, an attempt to escape the consequences, rather than confront them. Meanwhile, his rival Chris Eubank Jr. stands tall, focused, and ready to fight, proving himself the embodiment of resilience in contrast. Benn himself has admitted that the reality of his situation is...
I haven't spoke. I'm not his manager, by the way. I'm his promoter. But I haven't spoke with him. I spoke with one of the team yesterday. He's obviously quite dejected and down, but, you know...
hard to swallow. But the boxing public isn't buying it. This isn't the story of a fighter undone by a bad scorecard or a controversial referee decision. Benn's collapse has been self-inflicted, the result of repeated failed drug tests, mounting excuses, and an arrest that dragged his name further into the mud. Each excuse chips away at his credibility. Every moment of silence behind his PR team...
fans, because we've got a chance to make the biggest fight in boxing, but, you know, if that is the last we see of him, he's had a great career. I doubt it. But, you know, it's always best to come into retirement to make sure someone pays you to come out of retirement. But if that's his lot, much respect to him.
Team paints the image of a man unwilling to face his own reflection. In contrast, Chris Eubank Jr. has built a reputation, love him or hate him, for always standing up, even in defeat. He never dodges the cameras, never hides from scrutiny. That difference now looks colossal. Frank...
he's not going to fight again. He'll still make noise, he'll still talk a bit of bollocks, and still go back and forth. But I don't think he's coming out of retirement anytime soon.
Warren summed it up best when he said Benn wasn't just down, he was broken. The once cocky fighter who bragged about smashing everyone is now fragile and cornered. Warren tried to soften the blow by crediting Benn's contribution to British boxing. But let's be honest, what contribution? The legacy Benn leaves behind is 3 failed drug tests, a police arrest, and an escape route disguised as retirement. The tragedy isn't that Benn might retire. The tragedy is the disgraceful way he's going out. Fans didn't want sob stories or excuses. They wanted the fight, the gladiator showdown with Eubank Jr. Instead, they're left with the bitter taste of scandal and disappointment. Even Eddie Hearn, who once promoted Benn as the future of British boxing, now doubts whether his fighter will ever set foot in the ring again. And unlike Warren, Hearn doesn't sugarcoat it. He's blunt.
So questions here this afternoon about whether we will indeed see him back in the ring. I suppose it's difficult for you to say, Frank.
Well, it is, but I don't believe we will. I think that's the decision he's made. And we've had, I mean, what he's given...
Benn's career may be beyond repair. A single failed drug test is bad enough. 3 is almost impossible to recover from. Add an arrest, and the idea of Benn rebuilding his reputation feels absurd. Hearn's doubts echo the growing frustration among fans who have lost faith. While Benn's stock plummets, Chris Eubank Jr.'s rises. He's proven time and again that real fighters weather storms, take their losses head on, and come back stronger. That's why Eubank's reputation has never been cleaner. Perhaps the most damning words came from heavyweight contender Daniel Dubois. He doesn't mince them. Drug cheats should step aside and let real fighters fight. Dubois speaks for every clean boxer who's sweated in the gym, made weight the hard way, and entered the ring without shortcuts. To him and to many, Benn's behavior is beyond redemption. Failing once might be called a mistake. Failing 3 times and getting arrested, that's unforgivable. Dubois is right. Boxing stands for
and the people that are, doing that sort of thing. So, drug cheats need to, they need to step aside and let real fighters fight.
Discipline, sacrifice, and respect. By flouting all 3, Ben has spat on the sport. Contrast that with Chris Eubank Jr., who has never needed performance enhancers to prove his worth. He's taken his losses on the chin, faced criticism head-on, and continued to fight clean. That's the brutal difference. Eubank Jr. represents integrity, while Ben now symbolizes disgrace. The British Boxing Board of Control has made its position clear. It will not sanction Ben's fights. That's the final nail in the coffin. Think about how humiliating that is. Once tipped for superstardom, Ben now finds himself barred from competition by the very body meant to regulate him. Eddie Hearn may try to polish the language, but the truth is simple. If the governing body itself doesn't trust you to enter a ring, your career is finished. Meanwhile,
Statement he's actually saying is that we're not sanctioning this fight. There's ongoing conversations with the lawyers and the British Boxing Board of Control. Obviously, we want everyone to be comfortable. Conor Benn, Chris Eubank Jr. are aware of...
Eubank Jr., despite his critics, has never been banned, never failed a test, never been escorted by police. The contrast has never been clearer. The boxing world is nearly unanimous on this. Pundits like Spencer Oliver and Simon Jordan have both insisted there can be no second chances for drug cheats. Jordan didn't mince his words. Gonski, he said bluntly, should be the only option. And he's right. To allow Ben another chance would send a terrible message to every young fighter dreaming of making it clean. It would say that shortcuts and lies are tolerable, if you're famous enough. Spencer Oliver echoed that sentiment, calling for accountability and transparency. Boxing, he argued, cannot afford to let Ben sneak through loopholes. This isn't about punishment for punishment's sake. It's about protecting the sport's credibility. And credibility depends on fighters like Eubank Jr., who grind through careers the right way.
Listen, I've always been strong on that. I've always been strong on the fact that I don't believe in giving them a second chance.
You're basically saying, no 3 strikes and you're out.
No 3 strikes
and you're out. No. 1, you fail a test and gone ski.
Absolutely, because I just believe then that moving forward, people would think twice about doing it. If they think, well, you know what, I'll get a second chance anyway,
That's the story now. 2 fighters once linked by rivalry, but now divided by principle. One still standing, one falling apart. Eubank Jr. may not be universally loved, but he's respected. Ben, once destined to be the face of British boxing, now risks becoming its greatest cautionary tale. Because in the end, legacy isn't built in hype. It's built in how you handle the storm. Eubank faced his, Ben ran from his. And that's why the distance between them has never been wider. Chris Eubank Jr. rises as Conor Benn's legacy. Crumble's trainer Don Charles delivered the message cold and clear. If you take banned substances and get caught, there's no forgiveness. That's the brutal reality Conor Benn cannot escape. Johnny Nelson adds another layer, pointing out that Benn's repeated attempts to skirt responsibility have stained the sport itself. Fans are left asking the same question. How can a fighter fail multiple drug tests?
I mean, this is very unforgiving. You can't, I'm sorry. Provided he's been found, it's 100% that those substances were found in his system, it's unforgiving. And you know what, I blame the governing bodies because I don't believe that they imposing heavy enough.
Keep competing, and only stop when public outrage explodes. Nelson admits he was as stunned as the fans. The collapse of Benn's career has been sudden, chaotic, and humiliating. The fact that we're even debating whether he should retire or be punished shows how deep the rot in boxing has spread. Through it all, one man stands taller than ever. Chris Eubank Jr. Eubank doesn't mince words. If you fail a drug test, you don't deserve respect, leverage, or equality. That statement captures the difference between the two men. What was once billed as one of British boxing's biggest showdowns has turned into a one-sided story of disgrace. Eubank Jr. isn't just the cleaner fighter, he's now the symbol of integrity in this rivalry. He holds the moral high ground, the credibility, and every ounce of bargaining power. Ben's team can spin their narratives, his fans can defend him.
there is going to be there needs to be an inquiry straight after this. Why, what? But that's what I'm hearing. This news is as fresh to me as it is you. I'm quite sure when this goes out, it'll be all over the place anyway. But all I can say is he passed the.
But no one can erase the facts. 3 failed drug tests and a humiliating arrest. Even the one thing every fighter clings to, money, has slipped away. Eubank Jr. now controls everything, while Benn walks away empty-handed, his legacy in tatters. The fall of Conor Benn has left British boxing shaken. 3 failed tests, an arrest, and talk of retirement have cemented his name in scandal, not glory. Yet in the wreckage, one fighter's reputation has soared. Chris Eubank Jr. has emerged not just as the rival denied his fight, but as the symbol of what boxing should represent: integrity, discipline, and accountability. If the fight ever happens, the stakes would be monumental. For Benn, it would be a desperate bid for redemption, a chance to prove he can compete clean. For Eubank Jr., it would be the ultimate statement, dismantling the rival who once promised greatness, but destroyed himself through
Failures drugs test, you don't get 50-50 split.
No. No matter commercial power pulling, no.
You don't get 50-50 split if you...
Perception. This rivalry has transcended skill. It's now about mentality, honesty, and respect for the sport. And on that front, Eubank Jr. has already won. Conor Benn's downfall is more than a personal tragedy, it's a warning. A fighter who once carried the hopes of British boxing now walks away disgraced, his name forever linked to scandal. Meanwhile, Chris Eubank Jr., through his resilience and transparency, stands as the counterpoint, the fighter who never needed shortcuts, who faced defeat without shame, and who embodies the values Benn abandoned. So the question remains, can Eubank Jr. restore pride to British boxing, or will Benn somehow rise from the ashes? One thing is clear, Benn's silence screams guilt. His excuse